I'm Kate Livy, the Director of Education and the Associate Curator here at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, and I'd like to welcome you back to another installment of Chesapeake Treasure, a feature here on Facebook where we explore one of the 68,000 objects in our collection. So today I am joining you from the Collections Building down here at the Maritime Museum, a space that is off limits to the public. And I wanted to pick out a few of the special things that we have in our collection to share with you today, specifically related to crabs. So I was in a conversation with some friends yesterday about crab cakes. And I know there is a lot of controversy about what makes the perfect crab cake. Some people swear that you can't have any filler at all. Other people feel like, a little bit is okay, eggs are all right to add. Other people really feel like the kind of crab meat that you have is important. And I know if I go to a restaurant, you're really always looking for those big lumps of crab meat to indicate that, this is definitely worth the money you're probably spending on that crab cake. Now, that was not always the case, and it's actually a piece of history that's really connected to the Maritime Museum's location here in St. Michael's in particular. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about crab meat differentiation. So when you go to the grocery store and you see special crab meat or claw crab meat or jumbo lump crab meat and you think, man, I'm really gonna shell out for the jumbo lump crab meat. All of that differentiation started right here in St. Michael's. So there were two African-American entrepreneurs, Colburn and Jewett, and both of them were from Crisfield, Maryland, where they were involved. Crisfield, of course, was really well known as sort of this packing hub where they do oysters in the wintertime, but then tomatoes and fruit in the summertime. So Jewett grew up with his mom sort of growing tomatoes and strawberries in the summertime, and then coming here to St. Michael's to work for a packer, Thomas Blades, and pack oysters in the wintertime. Now, he did that for several years until he kind of thought, I know enough, I might move to St. Michael's and just do this full time. So he did, and he was able to gain a lot of knowledge and expertise. And in 1910, interestingly, he had the opportunity, and this was really unique in this time period, to establish a packing house of his own. Now, as you can imagine, there really weren't a lot of African-American owned packing houses, simply because for African Americans here on the segregated eastern shore of Maryland, getting a loan was really difficult. Now, Jewett was really well known and well respected, especially in Crisfield, where the governor, the brother's governor, who was also a Taws, co-signed the loan for him. So he was able to establish this packing house here in St. Michael's with a partner, Jewett, or with Colburn. So they packed oysters in the wintertime, as you would expect, and actually here's an example of their brand, C brand. It says a little bit better. These were packed here in St. Michael's, and then they were processed and sent out in Baltimore. But what they're really well known for is, of course, crab meat. So around the turn of the century, crabs start to become this big industry in the Chesapeake, and it has a lot to do with refrigeration. Now, Colburn and Jewett were enterprising, and they kind of realized, man, there's like a marketing issue here. A lot of people don't know that crab meat is so delicious. They're certainly not as synonymous with Maryland as oysters in this time period. So they come up with a really revolutionary idea. They think, what if we were to separate out all this crab meat that we've just been picking and putting all together up until this point and call them special names? We'll have backfin crab meat, we'll have lump crab meat, and of course we'll have the penultimate jumbo lump crab meat. Now, these differentiations were marketing genius, and we have been using them ever since. But of course, traditionally, a lot of people just picked what they had in the crab and put it all together. On Smith Island, in fact, they had their own kind, deluxe, which was exactly that crab meat that was all put together and sold, all the same kind. One of the other things that they did here at Colburn and Jewett is they experimented with pasteurized crab meat. That's crab meat that has been heated up to a high temperature after it's been sealed in a can, and it allows it to stay fresh for several weeks at a time. Sounds crazy, but it allowed crab meat to really be sent all across the United States via trains and trucks. And they also had these particular cans that had a clear plastic lid so that if you were buying it, you could look in and see, oh, it is really good. They understood what consumers wanted, and they were able to come up with these really new ideas that we still use today and are a big part of our Chesapeake heritage, and something that we're reminded of every time we go to the grocery store. So the next time you're thinking about the crab meat that you want to put into your crab cake and what's essential to use, just say a little thank you to our friends Colburn and Jewett, who operated their packing house until 1965 with their revolutionary idea to separate it out, charge a little more, and change the way that we thought of crab cakes forever. So I hope you've enjoyed this little feature here on Facebook, Chesapeake Treasure. Join us next week for another cool object and another cool story. Have a great afternoon.